It's really good to have, and we're back at it. K.Y.R.A TV, yes, yes. So this is going for my socials, but as well as for my thesis. First, lead with your name and where you're from.
My name is Elias Agiga, and I'm from Berlin.
Don't worry about it.
Berlin, Germany.
Smooth, smooth. And the mic is cool. We're gonna look at the camera for the sake of speaking to the people. So Elias, did I say it correctly?
Elias.
Elias. There we go. Elias, how old are you?
I'm 25 years old, but I'm soon to be 26
Oh, smooth, smooth. When your birthday?
on the 16th of December.
Ah, it's coming up. Dirty December. You're gonna have fun though. In Ghana, that is you don't know about that yet. But okay, first question. How do you feel about the current state of Africa right now? Obviously you're coming from Germany. Like how do you feel if you were to contextualize it? How do you feel about the current state of Africa?
The current state of Africa. That's a big question. Okay, I feel like we're still in a period that is deeply shaped by colonialism, which has consequences that are first and foremost economic and political consequences um, that shape the global order of how power, economic and political power, is distributed in the world, and Africa is a place that has been on the losing end for quite some centuries now, and um, at, like I feel like there's a lot of movement going on at the same time especially in Africa, but also in the diaspora, that is addressing these questions in order to change. Like there has been these movements have been going on for exactly the same time as the like diminishing of the continent has been going on.
Exactly.
But yeah, I feel like with the ongoing connection between the continent and the diaspora and within the continent, we're in a time where, um, at the same time, addressing the issues is easier for more people, and but it's getting more difficult to change it because um, the forces are getting more invisible. The forces that perpetuate the system are getting more invisible. Like they are not colonial powers anymore, but large multinational companies um, that still dominate the continent, but also working classes all over the world. So I think we're sorry. I think we're in the period um, where Africa isn't like as a continent on the losing end anymore, but the boundaries are getting more mixed,
Ambiguous, like
ambiguous,
yeah,
and vague. Yeah, so we have um, in Africa we have a huge globalized elite
yeah,
that is that is part of the same exploitative power structure as the globalized elites in Europe or in China or in the US, and at the same time we have a huge working class and precarious class that is, I think, bigger than in other continents. But
yeah, huge, huge. Yeah,
so
that's really good. Yeah.
that may be an answer.
That was pretty good. No, I understand it. And whether it be you talk about like the invisibility of this kind of issue, whether it be like systematic or systemic, or instead of an individual, it's an institution, or instead of a institution, a local institution, it's a multinational institution. It just becomes more intensive, and you need more resources, and you need more time to kind of like hold it, because it's become a little bit more covert or elusive. That's a good answer. You know, so you're obviously studying African studies, correct?
I'm studying social and cultural anthropology, but with a focus on Africa.
Smooth, smooth. And so you're a master's student, MPhil or MA?
MA.
Smooth, smooth. First year.
Actually, it's my fourth year of master studies, but I started another master's program, and
Ah,
then and in Germany we're a bit more flexible.
okay, smooth.
Like
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
just, if you can afford it, you can
You can
extend your studies.
smooth, smooth. Okay, well, you love school.
I
So
do.
so my question is, what is one thing you wish more people, um, how would I phrase this? Maybe what is one thing maybe you wish you knew more about African culture? You know, you being a part of the diaspora and not necessarily being from here. What is one thing that you wish more diasporans knew about Africa that you might have learned, or something that you still are like maybe a little unaware of that you wish you knew more about? Yeah.
I would like for diasporan people to know that I feel like being part of the diaspora is a whole different thing than
Hmm.
being African.
Okay.
Like there's it's I would say it's at least as much of a difference as between being African and being European or being US
Yeah,
American,
of
like
course. Yeah,
white.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
American. Yeah.
um, Me, I feel like it's been here that I learned how European I am.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
while in Europe, I'm even if both my parents have German passports,
Mm.
I'm regarded as black
Of course, of
and
course.
as some kind of foreign
Yeah, yeah,
category that is not indigenous to Europe.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so it's here that I learned how European I actually am in
Hmm.
this positionality. Um, I wish diasporan people would be conscious of their their position of not being African but
Mm.
diasporan.
I see
Like
what you're
there's a
saying. Like
difference. Yeah.
being that in
Hmm.
between, that bridge, that medium in a way.
I
Is that
wouldn't
what you
even
mean?
say in between. Like
Okay.
some people would maybe I don't want to impose
Yeah. No, I'm just
anything
saying
on
your
anyone,
perspective. Yeah, yeah.
but from my perspective, there is I think there is an in between, but um, but at the same time there's a um, there's a very deep situatedness of diaspora in of the concept of diaspora and
Yeah.
diasporan identity in the countries where the diaspora lives.
Okay.
That has not absolutely nothing to do with Africa.
Okay.
You know, so the identities that are being imposed on them are the reason why there's so much connection about to Africa.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's a very European way of imposing the
I
identity.
see what you're saying.
So that has absolutely nothing to do with Africa.
Of course.
So I get like I also have the urge of reconnecting with the continent,
There we go.
but it's a very difficult endeavor
Mm.
because there's nothing I can reconnect to because I've never connected to here.
Mm.
So
Okay. That's
yeah,
fair. Yeah, that's
that's
fair.
so
Yeah.
this is something that has been important to me since I've been here in October.
Mm.
That I learned how European I am and how
Mm.
little my connection actually is to the lived experience of being African.
Yeah. And maybe to grow in that understanding. Yeah, yeah. And to kind of because I see what you mean. Like in one place you're seen as not black enough, and another place you're not seen as not white enough, and you kind of like in that awkward stage
Yeah.
of like finding yourself. But I think you're saying it the best in terms of you coming here and not just realizing how European you are, but realizing how much you can learn how to embolden and enliven and embody how African you are. Cause you got locks or keys like me, like you have a nice tint, you like he's like a nice ombre brown, So you have these elements, but because and we all have this, this is more of an interview about you, so I won't speak too much. But just to reframe it, just because it could be seen as they have a name for foreigners here. I don't know. It doesn't. You,
Or like
say it one time.
for white people, a brony.
Oh, brony, and then for African Americans, it's like Ataka or Kata or something like that. But again, Obroni is the main one. So what I'm saying essentially is looking at it from the aspect of I'm not just realizing how European I am. I'm also realizing how much I can grow to connect more with my Africanness. Does that
I
make
think
sense? Yeah.
I think what I learned was how European my Africanness actually is.
Okay.
Like the
Okay.
way I approach my Africanness
Yeah.
is an essentially European way of
Oh,
doing it.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's clearer now.
yeah.
Yes, I see what you're saying. So you got to discard that and then connect to the real African way. Is that what you're
Oh,
saying?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know to what I want to connect here.
Hmm.
Like I wanted to connect to my Africanness, but
Of course.
in the process of doing that,
Yes.
I learned how European my Africanness
I see
actually
what you're
is.
saying.
So
Yeah, yeah.
right now, I'm trying to see how to connect to the place
Yeah, yeah.
from this position,
Yeah.
from my European Africanness.
That's fair, and that's fair. Yeah. Okay. So not discarding it, but like just living in it and like appreciating that lived experience. Like, yeah, I am partially European. Yeah, I have African ancestry, and still I'm here to reconnect with that African ancestry. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. Okay. One of the last questions. You're a part of the diaspora. I'm African American. I'm also a part of the diaspora. I think we often have very caricature esque images of Africa, and Africans usually have a very caricature esque image of diasporans, African Americans, and European Africans, Australian Africans, Asian Africans. So when you hear the word Africa, generally, like before you got here, what immediately came to mind? Stereotypes, anything? Like this is a safe space. We all learning, but when you initially thought of the word Africa, what did you first think?
Something very obscure, I think, because there's always been something moving in me when hearing the word
Okay.
because of my uh, grandpa's history coming from here. Um, but yeah, seeing as my grandpa was very assimilated to Germany and German culture, and he didn't or he transferred his Africanness very little to my father. So my father has nothing to transfer to me.
I see what you're saying. Oh,
So
wow.
there's a disconnection.
Exactly.
Um, so this makes the whole thing very obscure for me. Um, yeah, because there's not really an, a natural given link for me that was given through my
I
family.
see what you're saying.
So there's always been something that was moving inside of me,
Of
but
course, nothing
just
from your family.
just
Yeah.
just very
Yeah.
obscure and
Yeah.
abstract, and I'm working on working on
Yeah.
finding out
I know.
what it is.
Yeah, and I don't know if you. I know you don't know me too well. I know we kind of just met during this conference, but same brother. Like I'm the first in my family to go to Africa to seek my ancestry. I want you to know that a lot of diasporans, a lot of African Americans don't learn that, don't learn this information, don't learn this content, and moreover, don't get it from their parents. So yeah, stand in that more because all of us, like a large majority of us, come from that standpoint of like we're like the first generation um, returners, if that makes any sense. And yeah, it's an honor, because a lot of for some reason, our parents and grandparents and ancestors sought to forget it. They needed to do it to survive. They needed to do it to live in their own times, but in some way it was to our detriment, clearly. Last question. How can we unite? We're obviously in Africa. We're two diasporans. I'm African American, which is a whole nother ball game. Enslavement, 400 years, all that good stuff. How do we all, Africans, diasporans, and African Americans, unite more? In your opinion, what do you think?
Um, well, we need I think we need a vision not only for Africans to unite, but all of the underprivileged classes of the world to unite. Um,
Okay.
as I said, like, I don't know, it's becoming more vague and less. I think the global exploitation regime is becoming less color centered
Yeah, yeah.
and more diverse,
More economic, more capitalist.
more colorblind, and
Yeah,
more diverse.
yeah, yeah.
Like, literally, diversity has been an agenda that's also pushed forward by CEOs and large multinational companies. Um, so not only the leadership gets more diverse, but also the exploited classes get more diverse.
That's what you're saying.
Um, so I think we need these classes to unite, and not only Africa, because as I said, Africa is today home to, or Africa and the diaspora are today home to one uh, huge masses of these underprivileged classes, and
I see what you're saying.
but at the same time home to these globalized elites, where who, in my view, an African an African CEO of a bank has more in common with a European CEO of a bank
Than an
than
African.
with an African worker
Yeah.
in the lived reality. So for yeah, for
Okay.
me, I think like the Africa must unite, or Africa and the diaspora must unite, would be secondary to workers of the world must unite.
I feel you, and just I see what you're saying. This is we in Africa. It's still, I know what you mean. I think you're saying, in addition to the ethnicity and the color, to also on an economic scale unite, because
I think first of all, of an
yeah,
economic scale, and if color and ethnicity is a means to do that, let's go.
okay,
And I think it can be a means of um, of mobilizing people
of course.
for the class struggle.
For the use of that, because this is what Martin Luther King Jr. just before we transition was speaking about in his Poor People's March before he was assassinated. That's when they chose to get him, because he started to unite not just black people, which is amazing, and African American people, but people of all ages, races, and ethnicities, based on that economic factor of like, yo, you see what they're doing to us, and it doesn't matter what color we are, we're here, so we have to maybe bring that economic thing a little more forward. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Have a great day.